We are live. I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to come in before we get going. So, as they would say everywhere else, come on in, come on in, come on in, come in. I'm going to take a moment to also share it. Trying to see on here. We are actually live on, where's the other one here? Y'all see it on the Facebook?
I
We're
did,
on
but I couldn't
YouTube.
share it.
You can't share it.
Well, I
It's all
can't.
right.
Well, I'm little one-handed here with my technical difficulties.
No worries at all. All right. So we are actually live. I'm trying to actually see it. I haven't seen it pop up on mine just yet. You have it on yours, Jen?
Let's see.
Let me see. I am live. I do see it. All right. So we are live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. Looks like the Instagram is having somewhat of an issue. So maybe it'll get going in a minute. But listen, welcome you all to the My Favorite Girl Caregivers Corner podcast. I am your host of the podcast, Priscilla Jean Louis. And so we're doing something a little bit different on tonight. We are gearing up for the 2025 Alzheimer's Rally in Tallahassee. And those of you that know me and have been keeping up with me, you all know that I am very excited every year about Rally. And so we wanted to come on live. So it is myself, as well as Jennifer Braisted, who is the Director of Government Affairs for the Alzheimer's Association, as well as CherylAnn Haley, who is a positive approach to care independent certified coach, as well as a caregiver advocate. And as you see on the screen, she's also Sandy's daughter, and Sandy is her mother. And so the three of us, we're in contact pretty regular. How are you doing? Those of you that are coming in, do me a favor, go ahead and share the live with others, get some other people on here, even as we go. And so before I go into anything else, I'm going to give an opportunity real quick. Jen, if you would just give me a little bit, tell our audience a little bit about you, your background, and we'll move it from there while we get people on.
Sure. So good evening, everyone. As Priscilla said, my name is Jennifer Braisted. I serve as the Director of Government Affairs for the Alzheimer's Association. I've been with the organization, it'll be 10 years in May. It's really been in a whirlwind over this past almost decade. I started my career in political consulting and working on Capitol Hill. So I do have that legislative policy background. But, when I started with the organization, I had an aunt who was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, who has since passed. And then throughout the journey, both of my grandmothers had forms of dementia. I was a caregiver for my maternal grandmother until she passed in 2022. So this has become very personal for me. Not only was it, something, but it's something that I've lived. And so, really fuels me even more in, the journey to really do what we can to advance policies, advocate for critical legislation, and for funding to support those living with the disease, caregivers, their families, and really educate about brain health too, because we are in a place now where you can be diagnosed early. There are potential treatments. And so ensuring that people are talking about their brain health and understand that's really critical. So really honored to be here with everyone, you amazing ladies tonight.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on. And CherylAnn, I'm going to pass it to you. Give us a little background on you.
Hi, my name's CherylAnn. I am in Tampa, Florida. We're kind of spread out across the state tonight, which is exciting. My mom has had vascular dementia and Alzheimer's since about 2016. She's lived in a community going on her 5th year this year. And about 3 years ago, I think I scanned a QR code for information on the Alzheimer's Association and got a newsletter that offered me the chance to go to Tallahassee and share my story. And so that was really the only way. Alzheimer's is and dementia kind of makes you feel like you can't do anything. There's nothing you can do, you know? But this gives you the opportunity, or gives me the opportunity, to stand up and share my mom's story and share my story and share the facts and figures and information, and also learn information and the other stories with people. So this just gives me an opportunity to make something that is bad into something good, you know. My mom doesn't necessarily know 100% what I'm doing, but I'll share with her what I'm doing. And occasionally she'll look at me and say, I'm very proud of you. I'm proud of what you're doing. And you should be proud of yourself. And so those moments are just priceless. And I really invest a lot of energy into this because I want other family caregivers to know that even though it may seem helpless or there's nothing that they can do, there's lots that they can do, and there's other people along with them, even though at times they probably feel very lonely. So my goal is to help other people know they're not alone and they can make a difference in the world too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, CherylAnn. And y'all know if you've been on the podcast, CherylAnn is a regular guest on the podcast. I enjoy having her on to share her wealth of information. And I'm going to say this in advance as well. Usually, I am the one running the StreamYard for someone else. So I'm actually running it and on here tonight. So I'm just going to say, take any mistakes in knowing that I'm doing both on tonight. So listen, do me a favor again, go ahead, share it, hit up others who, I don't even care if they're not interested, just tag them anyway, tell them to get on. I will ask you as well, as you see on the screen there, with the podcast, there are episodes on the podcast. We try to share information and resources for caregivers and those who are in need of the information. You don't necessarily have to be a caregiver. I always say it's better to have the knowledge and not need it than to need it and not have it. So do me a favor as well. Go ahead, if you haven't already, subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and of course on YouTube. YouTube is live as well. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this conversation. And so again, this is regarding the Alzheimer's, the 2025 Alzheimer's rally and tally. And just to give you a little bit of some statistics here. So when it comes to Alzheimer's, it impacts millions of families. We have 500 in Florida alone. There are over 580,000 individuals who are living with Alzheimer's, and 840,000 that are providing unpaid care to their loved ones. And so when you take myself and CherylAnn, put us in the mix, that's two of the 580,000, as well as two of the 840,000 that are caring for the loved ones. And so for both of us, this has become a real passion to be able to share this information with others. It's very important. I know for me, and just knowing CherylAnn, it's important for us to help other people to know what this disease is like, but even more to understand. I have on my button that we usually wear. And Donette, thank you so much for tuning in from Maryland. And let me say this, if you have any questions while we're talking, any questions that you want to ask, Jennifer is definitely the expert when it comes to these policies and the bills that we're going to be talking about. But any questions you have, feel free, put them in the chat. We'll pop them up and we will also do our best to answer those questions. But I have on my button that I wear, and it just says my voice matters. And that is what this is all about. Our mothers, mine and CherylAnn's, they can no longer speak for themselves. They can no longer advocate for themselves. And so that is exactly what we are doing. We are determined that we are going to speak for them. And we want you to understand as well is that your voice also matters. You have to be able to show up and to, speak on behalf of your loved one. And it's not just them. For me, it is my mom, it is my uncles, it is my aunts, it is cousins, it is, not just them, but myself. I'm at 50 now. And so I'm speaking for me. And even greater than that, I have two daughters that are coming behind me. And so our advocacy is not just about us, but for our families as well as these other 580,000 people who are living with the disease and their families. And so as we move further into this conversation, right now, Jennifer, I believe when we had our meeting last week, we're at what, about 120 advocates that are going to be meeting here with us next week.
Yeah, so we've had a few people who've had some issues come up, but we still have a really strong group. We're definitely over 100 strong, probably like 115 advocates who are going to be coming from all across the state. I mean, we're talking Pensacola, we're talking Miami-Dade, Naples, Orlando, Tampa, all the major markets. People are taking time from their schedule to come to the Capitol to share their stories with elected officials to really help advance Alzheimer's priorities that we're working on this year during the legislative session.
All right. And it's always a good time for us, to have that many advocates in one place. So on Monday, we're going to be at the Capitol and we're doing the lighting at the Capitol. And so, well, let me backtrack a little bit before we go there, Jen. We want to just talk briefly as far as the Alzheimer's disease, the impacts on these families here in Florida. Why the fight for better care and cure? Why is it so urgent that we come together in this fight?
Well, as you mentioned earlier, we have over 580,000 Floridians who are living with Alzheimer's disease in Florida. We have over 840,000 individuals who are serving as unpaid caregivers. And so we know with Florida's population, these numbers are going to continue to rise. And we already have significant wait list and need for services in the state. And so it's so vital that we come together and continue to amplify our voices to really help raise that awareness, because we know that these numbers are going to increase. And even though we've made a lot of strides, there's always still so much that we can do to move forward and really advance these policies, ensure that families have the support that they need.
Okay. All right. So, even with that, with the advocates that are coming this year, we have some key. Some of them are just continuations of bills that are already out there, monies that are already out there. But specifically, the bill that we have up now, and that's the one that I want to talk about a little bit more. The one that I went up on Monday and we talked about SB 398, Senate bill. For those that don't know, SB Senate Bill 398, HB House Bill 1065, and that is for the disease and related dementia awareness program. Tell us about that one and how important it is that we get this bill passed.
So this is something that we've actually been trying to advocate for a few years now, but this year it's a piece of legislation that we're running. So as you mentioned, you were able to testify this week and appreciate that so much. And I think it was so well received from the members of the committee, because that did pass its first committee unanimously. But basically, this would be the first ever in Florida public awareness campaign devoted to Alzheimer's and related dementia. Currently, Florida does not have that. We're actually one of the only states that do not fund a public awareness campaign. So it's just really a critical thing that needs to happen. And it would educate families on the importance of brain health, early detection and diagnosis, talking to a doctor about cognitive issues. So many people maybe experience some issues with memory loss or things that just don't feel right, but they are not discussing it with their doctors. And so, really breaking down that stigma and making sure people know to talk to their doctors about that. And then also, if someone is diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment or early stage Alzheimer's, having that knowledge and access to clinical trials or FDA approved treatments. So that's really what this campaign would do.
Yeah. And that's very important. Early detection. I spoke with someone, a family member of mine, right before I came on, another family member who is dealing with it, and a lot of times these symptoms show up. And I was on the podcast on Wednesday with Big Ben Hospice, the team from there, and we were talking about how, you know, a lot of times people consider it, they don't even say Alzheimer's, it was known as old timers, And I was sharing with them on there growing up, that's all we heard. It was either old timers or senile. Those were the two terms, but nobody ever explained what it was. We just thought it was something that old people get. But that early detection is very, very important. Of course, there's no cure for Alzheimer's at this time, but that early detection, gives you more opportunity to do things and to, you get those clinical trials that can add on a few months. Sometimes we shy away from the clinical trials because, as we always are, I'm not being a guinea pig for anybody.
Right.
And you have to understand it's not that, it's more than just taking meds. All of us are kind of leery about the medication sometimes, but you're talking about clinical trials that could deal with exercise, that could deal with sleep. CherylAnn, are you a part of a clinical trial at this point?
I am in a clinical study about microbiome and gut and brain health. So they look at what I eat. Once a year, I go to the center and they take different kinds of samples for me, and then they do baseline studies to see where I am cognitively. And they're simple things, like one of the things is hand strength, so they test my hand strength every year. And last year she said, you really need to work on your hand strength. So I have exercise balls, the little hand grips. I just do my best. They watch my gait and time my walking pace. Have to count down from 100 by 7. And the most beneficial part of it to me was she looked at me and said, your body is missing these 3 bacteria. And initially I was like, great, I don't have these 3 bacteria. Well, these 3 bacteria are key for cleaning my brain overnight while I sleep. So I had to look and see, like, what does my body need to create these bacteria. And so I had a vitamin D deficiency, extreme vitamin D deficiency. And so it's taken a year to get my levels back to normal. But I can't wait. But now I have to wait again, like another year, to see if that's made a difference. But I've changed my eating based on what kind of things that they've seen from that study.
Okay. And
Knowledge is
those
power.
studies, yeah, and those studies are that simple, right? I wanted you to share that because I want people to understand that it's not, something that you have to do that's strenuous, something that takes a whole lot. It's something as simple as that right there. And so I think it's important that we, understand the importance of early detection. We understand, those clinical trials, where they are, how we can get involved, especially people of color, right? We all know when you do the statistics, you do the research, African Americans, the rate that we are diagnosed is 2 times higher than our counterparts. And so African Americans, Hispanics, and women, right? It's even higher. So if you're an African American, you're a woman, your risk is even higher. And so knowing, what this looks like, being able to find out how you can get involved in the clinical trials, eating my vitamin D levels, I have to get on it better because mine are extremely low as well. And so that's what this bill here is all about. And I'm prayerful and hopeful that it's going to pass, on in all floors, and that it will be able to be something that everybody can be educated on. Now, even in regards to that, um, if I'm not attending rally, but I want to be able to help push this, how can I do that?
That's a great question. So I think one of the best ways is to um, tune into our social media. You have that on the ticker. I see uh, our Facebook group, Florida Alzheimer's Advocacy Group, or our Instagram or our X account, um, Alz Advocacy FL. We give late up to the date minute updates on what's going on. That was not English, so I apologize about that. But we keep the most up to date information on those sites. If a bill is going to be heard, an action alert, we'll have that, we'll send that out. If and then through engagement through that, we can add you to a list. We send out a session newsletter every Friday during these 60 days during session throughout the week. We send out every Friday, so you can sign up and get that, and that's on our Facebook group and on our social media platforms. They're just a great way to get all that information. And you can track the bill yourself, but we really try to keep you posted on what's going on. It just passed this committee, it's moving through the House, it hasn't moved through the Senate yet. Take action today because the bill is going to be heard tomorrow or the next day. So I would say that our social media, we really keep it up to date on what is going on with this legislation, and want to make sure that people feel like they are a part of this journey, even if they can't come to Tallahassee and they can't maybe do some of the things that other advocates are doing, but you can certainly be a part and follow along at home.
Yeah. And so if
Priscilla,
you're follow, yep, go ahead, Cheryl.
so for Senate Bill 398, this past week is a perfect example of that. My stepfather, Sandy's husband, here's me talking about going to Tallahassee and advocating. So I tracked SB 398 and I knew what committee it was going to. So he said, "Well, I wish I could do something." So I shot him off a list of phone numbers and I said, "These are the people that will be voting on this later today if you want to call them." So we went back and forth a little bit. He was hesitant and I said, "Listen, if I can get into a car and go to Tallahassee and speak to somebody in person, you can make a phone call and it's going to be very simple." And so he was like, "Okay, well, I'll try." And in less than a minute, I got a text back and he said, "That was super easy. Send me some more numbers." And then when it passed through that committee that day, I texted him and told him it passed. And he was like, "Okay, what do I do next?"
Yeah. And it's just that simple. Making a phone call. If you follow myself or CherylAnn, whenever it is put out there, both of us are usually out there, and it's simple, right? I post on Facebook and say, please take action now. And the only thing you're doing is clicking on the link. It takes you over to how you can take action. It's all set up for you. All you have to do, hit the button. It goes in, it pulls up your representatives based on your address, and it shoots it out for you. And then they send you a wonderful email at some point letting you know that they received it. And then it also gives you the option, if you have X, if you have, is it on Instagram? But your social handles, you can go on there and also, post it on those platforms as well. So it's just that simple. So my ask, even on this live tonight, is when you see that, and if you're on her page or on my page and we're asking, I usually come right back when people take action, because I'm big on saying thank you. Right? I'm huge on thanking people because this is important to me. And so I usually ask, put done. When you do it, put done in the comments. And I come right back and I, make sure that I say thank you. But that simple. So what I'm going to ask is that you follow the Alzheimer's pages, And then when we post them, it's a simple ask to just, go on, click the button, do it, because this all of this helps. And as I often say, it may not be you right now, but I can guarantee you that everybody listening to this podcast, whether you're live now or listen to it later, in some way or another, your life or somebody's life who has been directly impacted by Alzheimer's. Somebody, either you yourself have family members or somebody who's caring for somebody. So, advocate, help us to, amplify our voices even more and use yours. You can use your hand, but call. I mean, right about now, anyway, and I'm not getting into any of that, but we have to hold our representatives accountable. We elected them. And so, they help to serve us. And so, this is not a partisan issue at all. We just want to be able to call and say, hey, no matter which side of the track you're on, because guess what? Alzheimer's affects everybody. There's not a party affiliated with it. I did not know until Monday that Representative Simon, his mom, has Alzheimer's. A lot of these representatives that are serving, they too are impacted by this. And so, but please, that's my ask on there. Please help us to take action. So, what else do we have out there, Jennifer, that we will be focusing on in this rally?
So we're going to be focusing on two funding items. The first one is the Brain Bus. This is a mobile outreach program that is through the Alzheimer's Association. We're the only state in the country to have a Brain Bus. And it's a mobile outreach program, travels the state, all 67 counties. And again, it's delivering that information to those underserved rural communities, education on Alzheimer's disease, brain health. And so it'll go to different community events, and it'll be able to be out there so people can come by, have a conversation, a very unintimidating way. And so that program is funded through the legislature. We have to ask for funds every year. It's a non-recurring program. Exactly right there. And so it is something that we have to do. And it's really a huge benefit for especially our rural communities. We have almost 700,000 individuals who live in rural counties in Florida. And the Brain Bus is a great conduit for information and resources for those communities. We are seeking funding to keep the Brain Bus operational and up and running. And then the other items that we're advocating for is for increases in respite funding, specifically with the Alzheimer's Disease Initiative, which is a dementia-specific program that provides respite care for families, whether that is in-home or through an adult daycare program. Unfortunately, we have a significant wait list in the state. Right now, from our latest numbers, there's about 18,000 families who are on the wait list for services. And that's just one of the programs in Florida. There are other programs with even higher wait lists, but we are seeking additional $6 million increase to help combat that wait list for those services, because we know the realities of caregiving. We know in Florida that over 66% of caregivers are dealing with their own chronic condition that they're trying to manage and take care of. We know that 29% of caregivers here in Florida have been diagnosed with clinical depression. We know the income realities for families. Most caregivers have a household income of $51,000 or less. So our families need the support. And so we are advocating to get individuals that much needed support.
Yeah. And I thankfully, my mom is on long term. We take advantage of that program. So it is very important. I can't even imagine what that would look like financially without being on that program. I mean, there's still out of pocket expenses that we still pay because, there's times when I'm learning more and more, take advantage of that self care of that. So, there are people that are coming that are after the hours that I have, and so they do get paid out of pocket. But it's very important. Those services are extremely important, and so you know we want you again. Please help us by just simply pushing a button, calling your representatives, and helping us to get this information out there for everybody that needs it. We're not doing it just for us, but it's for everybody. So, CherylAnn, I want to ask you this question. As a caregiver advocate, what does Rally mean to you personally, and how do you see it benefiting those who are on the front lines caring for their loved ones with Alzheimer's?
I left my mom in memory care today with the other residents, and they asked me where I was going, and I told them I was going to go make this video and help people understand that they needed care and that there were people out there and elderly in Florida need better care. And they were so excited. They don't fully understand what I'm doing, but they're so excited. They're like, "You go, girl." Um, and it just gives me that opportunity. Like, I know that what we're doing, I mean, I needed education 9 years ago. I didn't understand what was happening with my mom. But it gives me the opportunity to speak for others. I get so many phone calls from Sandy's daughter, like my business, people asking me for help. And so we look at me and Priscilla and we see ladies in their 50s caring for their moms. But there's nothing more heartbreaking than getting phone calls from people in their 80s that have a spouse with Alzheimer's or dementia that they've been caring for, thinking that they could handle it. And then they come to realize they can't handle it. They don't have any money. And so I refer them to a resource, knowing that in our county there's a waiting list of 1,800 people, and so um, I'm just fighting for all those people. Dementia is a horrible thing that robs people's dignity in many cases and different parts of caregivers' lives and puts stress on relationships. And so if I can use the time, I know that I am very blessed to have a mom that's saved well enough to get her in a facility that offers great care, a community, and allows me the privilege to do this. And so I am just going to make the best use of what I've been given and give back to others because I this is a very hard journey, and if I can help somebody else along the way even a little bit, that will make this journey worth it.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what a lot of the advocates, most of the advocates that will be here this week, Monday and Tuesday, that's that personal journey. We meet up on Monday at the Capitol. That's at 5:30, right? 5:30 at the Capitol, and they'll start coming in. And so I love it, whenever we go out there because everybody comes in. The Capitol is purple. You have the representatives who are, they are the ones who are sponsoring these bills. And you have the families. I mean, we heard a lot of personal stories last year. Some of the representatives who are sharing their own personal journey with Alzheimer's. And, I think you become even more passionate and compassionate about it when you have that direct impact. And so you get that information. Now that part, y'all can come out. We invite you to come out and take part in the lighting ceremony. That's 5:30 at the Capitol, right downtown at the Capitol. We're right outside. Prayerfully, the weather is going to be conducive. It may be a little cool, but hopefully, hopefully the rain will have ceased.
Yeah.
It,
Why don't we check? Why don't we do a live weather report while we're here?
I looked at it earlier, so I'm just like, hopefully the rain is stopped. I know Tuesday is going to be sunshiny.
So it showed earlier that it was going to rain at like 7 in the morning. That has been pushed to like ending at 5:30. So that's great in the morning.
Yes.
So I think we're going to be a little cloudy, but that's okay because It's going to be the day after like daylight savings time, so it's not actually going to be dark while we're there. So the clouds will give us a little ambiance for the lighting. So
Yes.
it's good.
And I did see tonight, I was looking at Casanova Nurse, and he was saying that, even with the storms, every part, of this area wouldn't get it. So I'm like, okay, Lord, let it bypass Tallahassee again, please.
Right, right.
But go ahead, Jen.
No, I was just gonna say, hopefully it'll be, but I know Tuesday is gonna be beautiful, but I think we're gonna be good for Monday. And the brain bus is gonna be outside. So if you're driving on Monroe and you see that big purple bus, because we're gonna be closer to the road, that is the brain bus for everyone locally who's listening.
Yeah, and stop by
Yeah.
the Brain Bus and come see what it's all about. Especially if you live in the rural areas or you have family in those rural areas, it's a great opportunity for you to come and see it and see what type of service it is to the community. I think that I mean, there's two of them, and I'll be out there, doing what I can do, and we're gonna be out there at the Brain Bus on Monday, and then we'll be there Monday evening. And some of the advocates, they usually roll in enough time to get there for the lighting. So if you see us all standing out there, honk and wave and go park and come join us. It's usually not that long. What, Jim? Maybe about an hour and a half.
Oh, usually not even that. We try
Yeah.
to we try to keep it to 45 minutes, but an hour is probably more realistic.
It probably seemed a lot like that because I did all that walking last year. So it seemed like it was an hour and a half from all the walking I did. Because we were trying to park, I was trying to get parked, trying to get Kaylin parked. So I was doing a lot of back and forth, but
Yeah.
it's not that long, and it's a great ceremony. Great to be able to come out, and you have all ages. I saw some young college students out there, because reality is it does become a family disease. I've done a lot of focus in the past on the family because, I mean, Kaylin just happened to, she's a child in the house that I happened to start caring for my mom, and so it became a family deal. It's a package deal, so everybody's affected in one way or the other. And so I think it's a great experience. Even if you have children, bring them out, help them to see, because I think the earlier you start to recognize and become familiar and know what it's like, I think that's the best thing too, because you don't get confused, and we can start teaching them early that is not old timers, is Alzheimer's. And I do
Right.
want to thank everybody that is on. Miss Brenda, Esther, Donette, and my niece who's on. Thank you all for joining us and for sharing it. And so, we're gonna get ready to almost wrap up. Go ahead, Sandy. I mean, I keep
Cheryl.
calling you Sandy. CherylAnn.
Everybody calls me
Thinking
Sandy.
about
I'm going
your
to say
mom.
Sandy and Sandy's daughter. Jennifer, and for those of us who can't, for those, I will be there, but for those people who can't make it, it's going to be broadcast live, I think,
It
on.
is. It's going to be on our Alzheimer's Association YouTube channel. So if you do follow our social media, we're going to be showing that and advertising that coming up. And so all the information's there, but it will be streaming on YouTube, but you'll be able to connect to YouTube from all of our different social platforms. So we will be going live at 6 p.m. is when we're officially going to kick off. But advocates usually arrive around 5:30. We've got like some photo ops, and it's a great kind of networking and catching up opportunity prior to the official ceremony beginning.
Okay. Yep. And we're definitely going to be sharing those on our individual pages as well. But I'm gonna say, if you're here, come out, come out, take part, see what it's all about. And then, we'll head over to the Capitol on Tuesday. As we said before, we'll go over there Tuesday, and, we'll do some advocacy work. We'll go over and share our stories. And the thing about it is we all have a different story. We're all on the same journey, but our stories are different. And, you realize, I know for me, sometimes it brings things into perspective for me, because sometimes, and I think that's the great thing about all of the advocates coming together, because what it helps us to understand as well is that we're not alone in this thing. That's the one thing I say all the time. We're not. Sometimes these situations can make you seem like you're on an island by yourself, but you get to learn. You get to, you meet new people. You build friendships. CherylAnn and I, CherylAnn, where do we meet? Online?
We met in the Dementia with Grace Facebook group. Then
Yes.
you were in the Alzheimer's advocacy group. And then we saw each other in person for the first time last year for about 2 minutes.
Really, for about 2 minutes in
and
passing.
and our stories are so different for the most part.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
they're
you have your
different,
mom
but
at
then we
home.
have
I
a
have
lot of
my mom living in
similarities
the
as well.
community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have different stories, but we have a lot of similarities as well. And so, we bonded. We have each other's phone numbers. She texts me, I text her. And I mean, and you get to develop those type relationships when you come to rally. Jen is very personal, even with, her high position that she has there. She's very personable. We can text her, call her. I mean, and that's the one thing that I do love about the association and the staff that work with the association. They are all very, hands on. They're very much, they're there for you, and they make sure that, any information you need, if they can get it to you, they can. And they are compassionate. And I love that. That's one of the reasons why I have, worked with them so closely for so long. And so, hey, listen, if you're out there and you are a new caregiver, or even if you've been at it for a while but you've kind of been on that island out there by yourself, we're going to invite you, come and meet new people, meet other caregivers that are out here doing the same thing. We are only here to strengthen and encourage, and in many ways inspire other caregivers. And more than that, being able to just allow your voice to be heard. Come out and make your voice does matter. It does. So, go ahead, Sherilyn.
So I also am just thinking we're talking to caregivers, but also if you are somebody living with mild cognitive impairment or Alzheimer's or dementia of any kind, you're more than welcome to join us as well. I've met so many people that are living with Alzheimer's on in the rally, or when we were in DC last year. They are out doing the best that they can while they can to try to change the future for themselves and others. So if you're living with Alzheimer's or MCI or dementia, you're also more than welcome to join us and get involved with us.
Absolutely. I think, who is it? Steve Waterhouse, he and his wife are
Mm-hmm.
there every year. His wife, she comes, she has a cape that she wears, and she's there. She's helping to advocate for herself. So thank you, because we don't want to just focus on the caregivers, but absolutely, if you're in that, we have some people that are just been diagnosed, and you're scared, you're fearful, you don't know what to do, where to go, who, we are not that group that's going to look at you funny. It's, as I often tell people, dementia, Alzheimer's, no matter what form of dementia, the only difference between dementia and any other disease is this one is one that affects the brain. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. You're still a human. We're still human. And so, it's just being able to support. And you just led me to another thing, Cheryl, before we get ready to go. Jen, with these rallies, these smaller rallies, they fit into the larger Alzheimer's advocacy.
Yeah.
So outside of state, what goes on? How can we get involved beyond state when it comes to advocacy?
Sure. So, we talked a lot today about the Florida advocacy, but just so with the Alzheimer's Association, there are state advocacy days being held in every single capital across the country. So ours is one of the larger ones. Go Florida! But and there was like 7 of them that just happened last week. There's a bunch happening this upcoming week along with ours, but there are advocates across the country that are fighting. And we also fight on a federal level. So we advocate, we go to DC every year, but work year round to engage members of Congress because there's a lot going on the federal level. Not only is it about protecting Alzheimer's research funding, which we've seen tremendous increases, and that's how we've been able to see these FDA approved treatments. And we're really starting to lean into this new era of potential treatments and, slowing down the progression of the disease. And that's been through the work of advocates on a federal level to increase that funding at the National Institutes of Health. But we also advocate for support for caregivers. We're working right now on a tax credit for caregivers at the federal level. So there is just a lot going on. It's not just on the state. As many of you know, the Florida legislative session is 60 days. So for these 60 days, this tends to be a priority. But throughout the year, we are working, whether it's advocating for NIH funding, tax credits, all kinds of, we've done things on elder abuse and protection, legislation to create Medicare care planning codes after a diagnosis, just a whole array of things that we have worked on as advocates year round to really ensure that we are tackling Alzheimer's as a national issue across the country.
All right. And so hopefully we'll see. Hopefully this year I may be able to get in on the DC trip. I'm going to see. I'm going to definitely work on doing it so I can go up to DC and advocate as well. And so, before we get off, ladies, I want to ask each one of you, what's the one thing that you would like our listeners to take away from tonight's discussion?
CherylAnn?
You're muted. You're muted. You're muted.
That's because my pup joined me. Don't be afraid that you can do this. And not everybody has to go to Washington, D.C., or not everybody has to go to Tallahassee. You can start slow, but your story and your voice can make a difference in somebody else's life. And it'll also give you the fuel to keep going on this journey. So join us in some way.
Jennifer?
She really took the words out of my mouth. But for anyone that can, we'd love to see you on Monday at the Capitol. If you can't make it in person, please live stream, show your support. And as the ticker shows our social media, please stay posted and active on what's going on. Even if you don't want to take action today, just keeping updated and being able to educate your friends and family about what's going on, I think is so critical. And it's these building blocks. And then you learn about something that maybe, I want to make a phone call. Yes, I'm going to send an email. You know what? Maybe I will travel to Tallahassee. It's a very gradual thing, as CherylAnn mentioned. And there is room for everyone when it comes to Alzheimer's advocacy. Everyone has their own story and their unique perspective that they bring. And it's critical for advancing priorities and being a voice for those who can't be. So you ladies are incredible voices for Sandy and Vera, and and I was a voice for my grandmother, and still continue to honor her and her legacy. And so that's what we all have to do each and every day.
Absolutely. They said it best. And so thank you all for joining us on tonight. Thank you for the time that you allowed us to share this information. Alzheimer's Rally and Tally will take place on Monday and Tuesday of next week, the 10th and 11th. It seemed like it came extremely fast, but we are absolutely excited. Stay tuned, stay connected. My favorite girl in Alzheimer's, Sandy's daughter, and of course, the Florida Alzheimer's Advocacy Group. Stay connected to these social handles. We're going to be sharing a lot of pictures, a lot of probably video next week, a lot of ways that you too can continue to help us advocate. We'll put it out there. And as much as you can, just help us share the word. And I'll say, even to those that are new, or even those who may be caregivers for a while, don't be afraid to share your story. We all have one, as she said. Don't be afraid to share it, because you never know who it is you'll help along the way. And so thank you all. And we'll catch you the next time we're live. Stay tuned to the My Favorite
Thank you.
Girl Caregivers Corner podcast. Again, if you don't mind, go ahead and subscribe. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and of course on the website www.priscillajjohnlouis.com. You can visit the website, and there is a resource spot on the website. Their resource spot has different events that are going on, that are being hosted by agencies and organizations here locally in our community that you can take a part of. There's caregiver, a whole bunch of caregiver stuff out there. There's books, but go check it out. That resource spot, we're building that just for those of you that are on this journey. So take advantage of it, and we're here for you. Contact myself, contact CherylAnn. We're here to do whatever. And Jen, of course, same thing. You want to get involved with Alzheimer's Association, she will be the one. Contact her, let her know what it is you want to do, and we'll be happy. I'm speaking for her, but she'll be happy to hear from you. But we're all connected. So thank you all, and we will
Thank
see
you.
you the next time. All righty.